Hello and good evening from Rwanda's capital here in Kigali, and many thanks for joining us on this Thursday edition on RwandaTV. These are the top stories for our viewers in Rwanda and across the world. President Paul Kagame has said that building sustainable development for Africa is an African task and that the journey towards that goal should be centered on the African people. Rwanda is said to host the 12th African Green Revolution Forum, also known as AGRF Summit. The meeting comes at the time the world and the African continent grapples with COVID-19 pandemics and its effects, which experts believe has worsened Africa's food system. Now, the fifth session of the United Nations Environmental Assembly has adopted a historic resolution co-authored by Rwanda and Peru to end plastic pollution. Tonight, we speak to Environment Minister Dr. Jean-D'Arc Maria about this international legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution. I trust you're doing well. Many thanks for joining us on tonight's bulletin. I'm Ethan Tashobia. You're watching RwandaTV News live from Kigali. President Paul Kagame has said that building sustainable development for Africa is an African task and that the journey towards that goal should be centered on the African people. The president made the remarks on Thursday at the launch of the eighth session of the Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development. We have this report. The three-day Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development being held in Kigali will review the progress made by the African continent in delivering on its commitments to sustainable development goals. During the opening session of this meeting, President Paul Kagame said that although COVID-19 pandemic has caused a great deal of damage, cooperation between Africans is a pillar of sustainable development on the continent.
The COVID pandemic has slowed development gains, and in some cases reversed that progress that had been made. But we have to look for the silver lining in this crisis. Throughout our response, we can build an Africa that is greener and more resilient with the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2063 as our blueprint. The truth is that we were off track. Africa must build mutually beneficial partnerships to strengthen its capacity to manufacture vaccines and pharmaceuticals. Building the Africa we want is up to us. We have to own and lead the process and support one another.
All speakers at the meeting pointed out that COVID-19 pandemic has become a barrier to Africa's development and that the economic and social well-being of the people of the continent needs to be protected first. Executive Secretary of the UN Economic Commission for Africa, Dr. Vera Songwe, commended Rwanda's progress towards building a safer and sustainable economy.
We are here today because we are standing in a country that has vaccinated more than 70% of its population. This is an important fact because Africa will not open and our economies will not recover if we do not vaccinate. Rwanda has been able to get the vaccines and Rwanda has been able to use the vaccines. So it is not an impossibility that Africa totally can get the vaccines and use the vaccines. However, unfortunately, as we stand here today, when we average and aggregate Africa, only 17% of Africans are vaccinated. We have about 53% of African countries that have vaccines in country that are not being used. The question then is, why not? Is Africa willing to stand apart from the rest of the world as we recover? And we know the answer is no, because we're all here today to talk about how we get to Agenda 2030 and the Africa we want in Agenda 2063.
UN Deputy Secretary General and the chairperson of the UN Sustainable Development Group, Amina Mohammed, also pointed out that while there are still obstacles to delivering on the pledge to vaccinate 70% of the world's population, Rwanda's achievements are promising.
First, we must end the acute phase of the pandemic and build resilience against the next outbreak. Through the COVAX facility, the African Union is on its way to securing over 500 million vaccine doses. But despite these tremendous efforts, high-income countries have administered 13 times more doses per person than low-income countries. And vaccinating 70% of the world by July this year still remains our primary objective, and we do have Rwanda to see as a best practice. So there is hope.
This is the 8th time leaders are meeting to discuss how Africa can meet its sustainable development goals, such as improving the quality of education, ensuring gender equality, environmental protection, among others. Moving on this Thursday at Kigali Convention Center, Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente officiated the launch of the African Green Revolution Forum AGRF Summit. The 12th AGRF Summit will take place in Rwanda from September 5th to 9th, 2022. The meeting comes at a time when the world and African continent grapples with COVID-19 pandemic effects, which experts believe have worsened Africa's food system. Innocent Mugabo reports.
The African Green Revolution Forum, AGRF, is an annual conference on the development of agriculture and animal husbandry in Africa. According to Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente, Africa imported $43 billion worth of food in 2019, but has all the necessary resources to keep its population satisfied with the available food. He also adds that Rwanda has taken up measures for the sake of its food security.
Rwanda continues to invest in modernizing the agriculture sector for strategic agricultural commodities. For instance, today we are self-sufficient in seed production for key crops such as maize, wheat, soybeans under our crop intensification program. This target of phasing out seed importation was reached in early 2021 as initially planned. Our target is to reach to at least 75% of farmers using quality seed on consolidated land by 2024. Today, there is a good progress as 60% of farmers currently use quality seeds on consolidated land.
Some of the agriculture producers stress that among the crops they have managed to be self-sufficient include maize, which used to be imported on a large scale.
Uruganda rwa Minimex buri mwaka rusya toni zikabakaba ibihumbi 20.
The Minimex factory produces about 20,000 tons of maize annually. Last year, only 9% of maize was imported, which means that we have no problem with quality domestic production. And we are grateful for the continued efforts invested in the agriculture sector by both the government and stakeholders. As manufacturers, we have a challenge of low capacity among our buyers, which hinders our trade. As we solved problems with enough maize, we should also deal with this, since our maize is even of good quality compared to that imported. The issue of the youth who want to get involved in agriculture but lack resources and the land was also raised at the meeting. The government should invest in enough efforts in terms of making greenhouses accessible to farmers to a rate of at least 70%. We have limited land, but we can make it productive with the use of these greenhouses. For example, I might go and ask for a loan in any financial institution, but due to lack of collateral, my project will end up failing. Yet it will have benefited many. The African Green Revolution Forum chairman calls on everyone to work together for Africa's food security because there is still so much to do.
Among the knock-on effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the UN has noted a dramatic increase in world hunger. According to the state of food security and nutrition in the world, 1/10 of the global population, as many as 811 million people, were unnourished in 2020, which is an increase of 118 million people from 2019 records. Further, the AU CADI biannual review report of 2019 revealed that Africa was not on track to meet its goal of ending hunger by 2025, noting a deterioration in food and nutrition security on the continent since the inaugural report in 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, no country is healthy unless food and livelihoods are healthy. While there has been significant traction, a lot needs to be done.
Without action, by 2030, Africa will be importing food worth $90 billion. According to the African Green Revolution Forum, the African continent has the potential for rapid urban development so that by 2025, its population will have the capacity to trade worth $645 billion, with the purchase of food and beverages making up $167 billion. Innocent Mogabo, RTV News.
Thank you, Innocent, for that report. Still on Africa Green Revolution Forum, earlier today I spoke to Agnes Kadibata, who is the president of the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, about the upcoming AGRF, and started by asking her about the significance of this meeting.
AGRF remains the biggest opportunity for this continent, the African continent, to come together, bringing public sector, private sector, civil society and farmers to talk about the challenges we see in the agriculture sector, but also the opportunities. So Rwanda remains the home in what we call a home and away model, where 1 year we go to another country, the following year we come back to Rwanda. And people love being in Rwanda. It's a beautiful host country. So this particular year, the significance is that we will be tapping into the conversation of the Food System Summit that just ended a while ago to look at how different aspects of different sectors that impact the food system will work together to deliver against the food system in the context of climate change, in the context of COVID-19 and all the challenges we are living with.
Okay, you're talking about a food system, and I think one thing that comes into people's mind is Africa's reliance on food imports, and of course, ending hunger and all that. What is AGRA doing to ensure that all these challenges are eliminated? Yeah. Maybe it could not be soon, but at least later on.
Yeah. So what we do as AGRA, we focus on looking at market failures. Why is it that Africa doesn't have, a number of countries in Africa don't have functional seed systems? And functional seed systems mean that having businesses like an SME that can sell seed to a farmer in a village who is looking for that seed. Why is it that markets, food markets, a farmer who has more food than he needs, where does he find a market to sell it? Why is it that we don't have policies that are coherent and speak to the whole agricultural system, from having access to seed for a farmer, having access to extension, but also having access to a market? So we do that. And in the last strategy alone, we planned to reach 9 million farmers through SMEs, not ourselves. We don't do the work. We empower other people to do the work, because sustainability of a system comes from ensuring and empowering communities themselves, businesses in those communities, people in those communities to be able to do the work. So we feel that if we continue to do that, if we continue to double down on strengthening the capacities of SMEs, if we continue to double down on strengthening the capacities of policy reforms in our own countries, we will get there. Okay. It's a journey. It needs a whole lot of partners. It's a journey. It needs all of us to work together. It's a journey that we are working again against climate change, but ensuring access for a farmer is the bottom line. Access to good seed, access to fertilizers and other inputs they need, and most of all, access to markets. You do that, you definitely will have food security, and you will have the ability to fight poverty.
Talking about food security that you mentioned while closing that very answer, in case, God forbid, the Ukraine-Russia conflict escalates and extends to other countries, I'm avoiding mentioning the Third World War, but do you foresee a food crisis? And do you think Africa is ready to withstand that kind of pressure and shocks?
That's an interesting question, because I can't tell you how many messages, if you look on the internet, how many messages of doom, I would say messages of doom, around oil prices, around wheat prices, around maize, what they call corn in other countries, around soybean. The fact is, between Ukraine and Russia, you're probably looking at 50% of the barley production, 50% of wheat production, 20% of maize production between those two countries. So people are assuming that because these two countries are now dysfunctional in terms of being good markets for exports, the demand is going to be the same demand as was against a declined or decreasing market output. So yes, it's expected that food prices will go up. Right now, people are saying that it's actually already at the rate where it was in 2008, which was pretty high, which led to a whole lot of crisis on the continent here in Africa alone. But hopefully this will not go on for too long. But we've also learned from COVID-19, because of the market disruptions in COVID-19, a lot of countries have also come up with ways of dealing with those type of global problems. Countries have already found ways of sheltering themselves against some of those challenges. I'm not saying that it's a perfect system right now where those challenges will not affect us, but I think the biggest lesson here is we need to start shortening value chains. We need to start looking at how, and because we have the ability to produce what we need to start strengthening the ability to produce, process, and eat what we produce.
AGRA President Agnes Kalibata, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Moving on, the Rwanda Development Board, RDB, organized energy and mining sector focused meeting today in Kigali to engage the private sector community to take advantage of the business opportunities offered. The meeting held on Thursday was to update parties ahead of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting CHOGM and the Commonwealth Business Forum. Sidi Patel reports.
The meeting held today was to provide updates on Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, CHOGM, and Commonwealth Business Forum, CBF. This has shown the path to business opportunities available through CBF and how to maximize those opportunities. Awareness of the opportunities offered by CHOGM and CBF has been briefed in the meeting. The meeting held also discussed about how Rwanda business community could maximize the benefits. The information needed for participation and requirements has also been provided. Head of Investment Marketing Department in Rwanda Development Board, Mr. Philip Lucky, gives us the reason why RDB is engaging with different sectors.
I feel that energy and mining is one of the, some of the two important sectors for economy. We know that we want really to, advance our mining industry, from, artisanal to semi-mechanized to fully industrial. And for us really to be able to achieve all this, we need to find ways of connecting international partners and companies with the local companies. Then secondly, we really want to connect, people with the technologies that can actually connect with our local companies, because we know the struggles and the challenges that our companies go through looking for technology, companies or, providers. So we really want to create an avenue that can help to connect these people together. And the other thing is on financing, We all know challenges that come around with financing investments. And that's why we say, for us to be able to, understand the challenges that are within these companies from this financing standpoint, how can they actually start preparing themselves for them to be able to connect with these international financing companies that will be coming to Rwanda in June.
There should be more efforts in the mining sector. It is a chance of having so many people who work in this sector, who will be coming here in Rwanda, who have more experience than us in mining and energy. It is a great opportunity for the Rwandan investors. It is not the first time to meet with these people who work in this sector, but it will give us another opportunity to discuss business arguments and price of natural minerals, which is high right now. We'll look our way forward in developing the mining sector in our country.
The four main forums are Commonwealth Business Forum, Commonwealth People's Forum, Commonwealth Youth Forum, and Commonwealth Women's Forum. Several other sectors will include tourism and hospitality, ICT services, agriculture, entertainment, transport and logistics, retail, financial services, security and concierge have been identified for Chogan opportunities. Siddhi Patel, RTV News.
Thank you, Siddhi Patel. Now, the fifth session of the United Nations Environmental Assembly on Wednesday adopted the historic resolution to end plastic pollution. The resolution, which was co-authored by Rwanda and Peru, sets in motion the development of an international legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution. The resolution adopted in Nairobi sets out the urgent need for a legally binding global framework that takes bold action to transform humanity's relationship with plastic. According to Rwanda's Minister of Environment, Dr. Jean-D'Arc Mujawamariya, the framework will encourage regular ambition setting and monitoring through national action plan, as well as international cooperation and knowledge sharing. We spoke to her earlier on.
How significant it is very much significant for Rwanda and for the whole world, because it implies that the world has understood that the plastic pollution is a crisis, is a global crisis that we have to fight with global solution. And for Rwanda, it has really empowered more Rwanda and the Rwandans. And it has shown that the decision we have taken 2004, 2008, 2019 were decisions of good leadership, of being responsible and accountable to our people.
Okay. So, Honourable Minister, I understand Rwanda is working together with Peru on. They worked with Peru on this resolution. If you could tell us, what are some of the alternatives you're proposing to end plastic pollution?
Yeah. Okay. The alternative to plastic pollution is to eliminate plastic pollution. So, by eliminating plastic and single-use plastic usage in Rwanda and in the world, is that we can have alternative, as Rwanda has had alternative. We haven't yet reached 100% shift to alternative form of packaging, form of, changing plastic carry bags. But we have created jobs. Rwandans have changed this challenge of terminating or eliminating the usage of plastic bags into creation of jobs.
Yeah.
So challenges have become for us opportunities to empower women into weaving cooperatives, empower youth into producing, innovating paper carry bags. And it has created employment. It has created jobs. We have created jobs to eliminate or to reduce poverty, and of course, to empower our cooperatives. And of course, the alternatives are still to be found. We are now encouraging the private sector to go into alternative packaging, into alternative carry bags, to make sure that the challenges we used to have of terminating the usage of plastic bags becomes an opportunity for us to create or to manufacture alternative packaging, not only for Rwanda, but to export to the region.
Honourable Minister, I hope you understand that what you and Peru are trying to fight is something that has happened for as long as we both probably have existed. What is the feasibility of implementing this historic resolution, and what are some of the biggest challenges that you're likely to face going into this?
Yeah, first of all, even if it's a problem that has existed for decades and decades. We can't be the onlooker when we are seeing the whole world is sinking, is drowning into plastic waste. We have to find solution. It's time to find solution. That's why even this treaty, this resolution is legal binding to put pressure on people, on leadership, to take the responsibility to change. And of course, there will be challenges of resistance, especially from public sector, plastic manufacturers, but luckily for Rwanda, we don't have that resistance. What we owe our people is to find the solution, to find the alternative. And we are doing that. We are now partnering with our PSF, Private Sector Federation, to find alternative together, government and the private sector. But the idea was embraced by Rwandans due to the resilience of Rwandans to find solution. As you say in Kinyarwanda, intore ntiganya.
Yes.
We don't keep on complaining, we find solutions, or we be the solutions we want to see in others. And of course, the fact that more than 170 nations have adopted yesterday, it shows that the whole world have understood that this is a global crisis. This is a global problem that needs a global solution. It is a pandemic like COVID. So you can't solve COVID pandemic with local solution. We have to have a global solution.
Minister,
but the resistance will be there, but all changes have always had resistance.
Minister of Environment, Dr. Jean-D'Arc Mujamaria, many thanks for finding time to speak to us. That's it. Now, African countries say they need to have a united front on the international arena to combat the effects of climate change. Delegates from 12 African countries and Kigali for a 5-day meeting to study the issues set to be addressed in Cairo, Egypt during the UN Climate Conference at the end of this year. Joining me live in the studio is Dr. Mithika Mwenda, the Executive Director for the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this show.
We're blessed to have you indeed. Now, first of all, why should Africans be concerned about climate change? How are we close to this issue?
Yeah, climate change is a challenge which has affected in a very negative way our ambitious strategies for development, the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations, the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, the African Union's and Agenda 2030, and even individual countries' development blueprints, like the Rwandan one and even other countries. So it's an issue of concern. It has exacerbated the already existing challenges which we have been having in fighting, in trying to develop and to reduce poverty. So really we need to address it, and the science tells us that really it is going really to affect all aspects of life. I was told the other day that in the last season around 200 Rwandans died out of floods, and these are the challenges which we are seeing there, because we cannot predict rainfall, we cannot, seasons have shifted, and there are a lot of various ways with which climate change is manifesting itself.
Fantastic. Now, I understand you advocating for a common voice as Africa.
Yes.
Parties to COP27 in Cairo.
Yeah.
Why is such an important
it is
thing?
not in Cairo actually, it's the COP27, this the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Conference, which normally are held annually. It is the turn of Africa to host it, and this is going to be held in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt in November later in the year. And what we are doing, all Africans, we want really to have a strong voice This is an international process. It's the global geopolitical interactions. Climate change is one of the topical issues in the world at the moment. The other one is terrorism. The other one is pollution, as the minister was saying, and many others, biodiversity loss. And in order for us really to secure aspirations and priorities for Africa, what we stand for, adaptation to climate change, mitigation, which is favorable to us, the adaptation finance, the loss and damage, and all those to support people like those who are being swept by the floods. We need really a very strong voice there.
Thank you so much. That is Dr. Mithika Mwenda, the Executive Director of the Pan-African Climate Justice. We really appreciate your time joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's it now. The Rwanda Standards Board and the Congolese Standards Board, OCC institutions that establish standards and conformity assessment of the products in both countries, note that harmonizing the rules and regulations will facilitate and promote trade between these two countries. Olivunate reports.
Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have engaged in cooperation through various bilateral and multilateral trade agreements aimed at facilitating and strengthening trade relations. In joint discussions held today between institutions in charge of standardization and conformity assessment of both countries, it was noted that both are happy for the progress made since the signing of the agreement. The Director General of Rwanda Standard Board, Raymond Murenzi, noted that they have already started implementing what was signed in the protocol.
The agreement was signed in 2020 and it has started from 2020, and today we are having more than 161 products that are being exchanged between two countries, and we have listed a list of standards that are being respected between both countries. On the side of Rwanda, we are having a quality infrastructure which is already accredited, and we are using laboratories of Rwanda Standard Board to assess the conformity of those products. And on the side of Congo, they are having as well other facilities, and we had time to visit those facilities, and they are complying with standards.
During a 3-day meeting in Kigali, both parties are reviewing agreements which include facilitation of cross-border trade, consumer protection, cooperation in the harmonization of standards and other technical regulations, mutual recognition, information sharing, training and exchange of experts, and conformity assessment. Gabi Lubiba Mampuya, the Director General of the Congolese Standards Regulatory Body, Office Congolais de Contrôle, notes that this partnership is of a great importance to the residents of both countries.
Les deux organismes se sont mis ensemble afin d'aboutir à long terme, bien sûr.
The two organizations have finally come together to achieve a long-term mutual recognition of the work they do on quality satisfaction. Since 2017, we had meetings between our structures of the Commerce 2020. There was a protocol that was signed between RSB and OCC, and we had the first implementation meeting in Kinshasa, which was held from November 18th to 20th, 2021. And here we are again at the second meeting, where we continue to implement the provisions of our protocol. So we are reviewing the procedures because the products from both countries are quality products.
Quand les produits circulent dans les deux espaces, ce sont des produits de qualité.
Here at Majerwa is one of the places for collection of products for exports from Rwanda to various countries, including the Democratic Republic of Congo. Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo has so far agreed on 161 products for cross-border trade, for they meet the standards and conformity needed. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Tough times for charity funds right there. It's a wrap, folks. From me and the entire news production team, thanks for your company tonight. Stay well and safe. I'm Ethan Tashabia. Bye for now.